What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And this is the pre-COVID edition. It's a series of interviews I did back in 2019, and even though a whole lot of life has happened in between, I still wanted to get these stories out to you because I think you're going to find great value in it. On this episode, we have Jeff Paxton. He's the frontman of the band Minor League, and he's also Sofar Sounds city director in Houston, Texas. He shares his story of overcoming Guillain-Barre syndrome, which actually paralyzed him and took away his ability to play music. He also gives some great insights to new bands and how to book shows and what the people who are booking the shows are looking for. Hope you guys enjoy.
The Live and Create podcast.
Well, I think we'll dive in.
Sure.
Jump into probably, I like to start sometimes, well, most times, with the most important question. If French toast and pancake had a fight, who would win?
So for me personally, I would go with French toast.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's more variation of the actual substance. So you can put toppings on either one. You can put the same toppings on either one. But French toast, you got like the eggs. You got like the nutmeg and cinnamon that you can put in the actual substance of the toast.
So like a
pancakes
fortified...
are pretty much. I guess you can put stuff in like nuts and things in pancakes,
but not the same level though. I feel like I see what you're saying. I see where you're
I feel like French toast just has more substance to it, I like that.
I
don't feel bad about myself after eating French toast. Pancakes, it's like bread, sugar. I feel
more
like
sugar
crap now
and some butter.
French toast, there's like some good stuff in there.
Nice. Well thought out. I like it. Well, we're here in Houston, hanging out. I love the vibe here.
Town.
Oh yeah, you got some Houston pride. We were talking a little bit about that. So, when you were talking about the hurricane that came through and kind of how you felt like that triggered something in the city, or maybe at least in you. But could you talk a little bit more about that, like what you experienced living in Houston and seeing maybe even the culture change? If I understood what you were saying.
Yeah, for sure. It was cool because it was the biggest natural disaster in American history. Yeah. So like huge deal. Everything was underwater, billions of dollars in property damage all over the place. And it could have just kind of devastated a city. But for whatever reason, Houstonians really came together, and you click on the news and you see people in canoes and kayaks going around the city, picking people up out of their houses, donating spaces. My wife and I had strangers living with us for 6 weeks after the hurricane, just because they didn't have a place to stay. Actually, Facebook kind of connected a lot of people. They had the crisis response thing where you mark yourself as safe. Yeah. And if you don't mark yourself as safe, then it's like, what do you need? And then any normal person can be like, oh, I've got a space that you can stay. I've got food, I've got all these resources. Nice. And so the way that the city came together was really amazing to watch. And just to be here while it was going on, all the pride in the city, all of kind of the brotherhood of if I have something, then you can have it. Yeah. And then the Astros won the World Series at the same time. And it's like,
and the baseball
it was
can help.
The most beautiful time to be in a city. It was really amazing.
So a ton of Houston pride going on.
Yeah, and the pride still remains. Yeah. Like, even after that time, like, there's still so much pride in the city.
How many years have gone by since that?
It's been 2 years.
2 years, okay.
Yeah, so the 2-year anniversary of Hurricane Harvey was, I guess, at the end of August this year.
Wow. Yeah. And it's cool to see that stick by, like, the benefits, I guess, out of just a really horrible situation.
Yeah, you obviously wouldn't want it to happen again. Yeah. But it was something that just really showed the human spirit of like taking care of each other, kind of the way everybody wants to see themselves. Right. You saw it in everybody.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. I mean, there were a few people looting, but you heard
there's
very
always
little
that
about
element.
That. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool.
Now, how long have you been in Houston?
So I moved here from Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah, nice. Kind of small town. I guess 2011. Okay. Moved here for a girl. Nice. Who's my wife now.
Well done. It worked out. I moved to Kansas City for a girl, and that didn't work out. But I eventually found my wife in Kansas City, so it kind of did. But so I'm glad it worked out for you. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah.
Well
done. So 9 years ago.
And then at that time, because you were a school teacher before doing Sofar, which we'll get into. But so did you move here immediately start teaching as well?
I did, yeah. So I moved here, I guess, in June, and then got my first teaching job, started teaching early August that year.
And then performing on top of that, was it like,
Yeah,
what did
a
the
little bit.
performance and music life look like for you when you were a teacher?
So I actually didn't, well, so this is like a whole other story about my life. I actually got this really weird nerve condition that basically paralyzed me.
Really? Like, how much paralysis?
So it's called Guillain-Barre.
Guillain-Barre.
It's your immune system attacking your nervous system.
Wow.
And so it starts with the extremities, so like my fingers and toes went numb while I was teaching one day, and I was at school. My dad's a doctor, and was like, "Dad,
this ain't right."
My hands are like not working anymore. Like I could feel my core. Even when I sat up in the morning, it was like this weird wave of contractions.
Wow.
And it just spread really fast. And I'm a runner, and I couldn't run for like a year and a half.
No way.
Couldn't play guitar for about a year and a half. So
because even like just putting your fingers to the fretboard.
Yeah, just like my brain would tell me to play this song, but my fingers were just like, it's kind of moving randomly, and I had very little control over it.
Okay.
So anyways, that kind of motivated me to take music serious.
Yeah.
Even as I was teaching, but I didn't really get into like very seriously recording, performing until probably about 3 years after I moved to Houston.
Okay.
So I was doing the teaching thing full time. I was the athletic director. I was coaching. And then the performance and the music, I actually started taking serious probably 3 years after I moved here.
Gotcha. So paralysis-wise, like how do you work through that? What does that look like for you?
Patience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's not like a treatment in a sense, or is it more like helping your body adapt to it?
So there's some things that I had to wear some braces just to function.
Really?
Like just to pick up this cup, I'd have to wear a wrist brace because I couldn't support my wrist. I couldn't do this until probably almost 2 years after it happened.
Really?
I couldn't like pick up my wrist.
And so you run marathons now. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first marathon wasn't until probably 4 years after it happened.
And just is it teaching your brain to function differently with your body? Is it teaching the muscles?
So it's just the nerves repairing themselves, and they go at a specific pace no matter what you do. I think it was like a millimeter a week.
Wow.
And so it just was a slow process, and I could track as it was progressing, like, oh, I can actually do this now. So maybe in like a few months, I'll be able to do this.
That is wild.
Yeah, so it was just patience, a lot of sitting around, watching TV shows.
And like physical therapy and that kind of stuff?
Some physical therapy, but that was not actually that helpful because it didn't actually matter what I was doing until the nerves healed. Once they healed, then I could start regaining the strength.
I see what you're saying.
But,
so your immune system had basically depleted it and damaged it, and it literally was waiting. You were waiting for your nerves to heal.
Yeah, they just weren't working right.
That's wild.
And until they were working right, I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't do any physical therapy because I wasn't actually capable of doing anything.
Yeah.
So
is that something that can come back for you?
Yeah, and it's all come back. The last thing that came back for me was I wasn't able to walk on my heels until actually about a year ago.
Really?
So it's been like 9 years since it happened, and that was just for some reason the last holdout. Like these muscles in the front of my leg, I just weren't working.
Interesting. So what's it like running marathons, dealing with, because from what I was gathering, you've been running them for a while.
Yeah.
What's that like when you still working out, like run on your heels?
I dealt with a lot of injuries my first couple marathons after recovering. But it definitely adds a lot more meaning to it personally, having had that kind of taken away. And I've always been a runner, and to have that thing that's so important to me taken away for a long time, I never take marathons for granted. Yeah. Like I just love running now. I love playing music more than I would have if I hadn't lost that for a while.
Right.
So
it's kind of special when like you're on like mile 18 and it hits you again in a way.
Yeah, just kind of remembering, man, I couldn't even walk down the hallway for months.
Man.
So
I hurt my back. It was out for like 6 months, so I can't imagine dealing with that where it's your entire body completely out of your control. Ooh, way to
Pretty
fight
wild
back
experience.
and come back into it, though.
Yeah.
So from teaching, you find your way involved with Sofar as you're performing as well here in Houston, right?
Yeah, so I found Sofar, which is a pop-up secret concert series. It's all over the world. It's in 400-something cities.
And growing, right?
Yeah,
Like
and still
all
growing.
time.
It's growing pretty fast. There's a lot of demand for it, which is very cool. So I found that as a performer, trying to find spaces where I could play my music to new people in a place where they were actually paying attention to it. In Houston, there's two different types of shows. There's playing at a bar where you get paid, you're playing for new people, but they're not listening to you.
Right.
They're drinking, they're doing their like bachelor party or whatever, and they're not paying at all attention to what you're doing. Or there's the other side where you're playing at a venue to people who are listening, but you had to sell all the tickets for it, and so it's people who have already heard your music.
Right.
And so how do I play for new people who are actually listening? And then that's where Sofar came in. So I started playing shows, and then I took over as the sound guy for Sofar, and then took over as the city director about a year and a half ago.
Nice, man.
And now it's a full-time job. So
Because when did you step out of teaching to transition full-time?
So I was doing Sofar and teaching at the same time for about a year and a half. And then this past May, I took over full-time Sofar. So this past school year was my last school year teaching.
Nice, man. Where did the passion for the music start for you?
It's one of those things that it's like so deep in me that I'd never remember a time where music didn't impact me.
That's cool.
Like I remember when I was a kid, probably 4 or 5 years old, my dad would like I would sit in a rocking chair and we would just listen to music. We called it rocking. And I remember listening to like the Beatles. I didn't know the play on word until later on in my life. But
One day you're like, you're probably running a marathon. Oh yeah, no, I don't.
I get it. Yeah, but we listened to the Beatles. We listened to my dad liked the Doobie Brothers in Chicago.
So he's training you up on some classics.
And we'd also listen to like classical music. I remember listening to Handel's Water Music. Like that's a vivid. When I listen to that music now, I'm like, oh, I'm immediately transported back to that. So it always meant a lot to me.
And your dad was a musician as well, or he just had a love for
He just had a love for it. He plays bass now in like a church band.
Okay, right on.
But yeah, so for me it was always there and it always impacted me. And instruments were always just really easy for me to pick up. Like playing the recorder in elementary school.
You're
like,
like,
oh, this is super easy. Like, why is everybody having a hard time with this? So it kind of led to, I played piano as a kid, but was forced to, so it wasn't that fun.
Right.
And then got my first electric guitar, 7th grade.
Nice. That's when
Played
the whole world opens up.
trombone. Oh, exactly, man. We wanted to be Queen back in 7th grade.
Who didn't, right?
Yeah, still want to be Queen. But I played trombone in middle school through high school. That was so much fun, playing in the stands at football games.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you still play?
I do play trombone as kind of a gimmick at my shows.
Okay.
So I'm not very good at it anymore, but I can fake it enough for people to be like, oh, that's
90%
so
of people
cool.
are like, he plays trombone.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
brilliant.
Yep. So if I'm playing a show, like that's when I see the Instagram videos posted when I bring the trombone
Right.
out. They're like, oh, this is a good show. And then trombone comes out. I got to get this on video.
Well
and
played.
share
You
it.
made an experience. I dig it.
Yep, exactly.
Last night I was in Austin and I just popped into open mic I found because I had a show the day before, just kind of a night free. And there was a guy with a trombone. I was like, no way, I need to recruit. They told me I needed to recruit a band. So I just started walking around the bar trying, but it ended up being so late and I knew I needed to get here and I'm like, all right, sorry, I gotta go. I was sad though. I didn't get to share a stage with a trombone.
There's something about a brass instrument.
There's an energy,
It's
man.
it's like this clear sound. It just immediately gets everybody's attention.
Now, do you like loop stuff and play over with the trombone, or what are you doing in your show? I need to.
So I don't play the trombone unless I'm playing with the full band. If I'm playing solo, I do like the little mouth trumpet thing.
Gotcha. You put the little horn line in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the trombone's a full band thing for sure.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
So it started just as long as you can remember, and you said throughout this experience with your paralysis, that's when it drove you to get more serious about it. Are you still in the middle of really leading Sofar in Houston, which is, I mean, how many shows you guys do a month?
About 15 a month.
15 a month that you're doing and getting constant emails and all sorts of craziness, I'm sure, from artists like me who are like, hey, man, what's going on? Are you still performing? Are you still able to write and do your own stuff? Yeah, I am.
Too? So the writing is my favorite part of all of it.
Yeah.
Like, I've got so many songs that nobody's ever going to hear, but it's the most fun part to me, and it's where I really get to express myself, and I love the creative aspect of it.
Yeah.
That if a song's not good, you can't blame anybody but yourself.
That's true.
You have to be the ultimate editor and make the song as interesting as possible, and I love that part of it.
That's awesome.
I think also in the music scene, there's so much that's not within your control. Mm-hmm. Like if a show's bad, a lot of times it's because the venue or people are talking, or you can blame a lot of people.
There's a lot of places that you can point to.
The songs that's completely within my control.
I love it.
So I love the writing aspect of it. I love the performing. If it's a good show, I've kind of gotten a little pickier in my old age. I used to just play, my band and I used to play every weekend.
Right.
And just got so burnt out on it.
You're like, yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, you take everything
There's a season
you can get. Yeah, there is definitely. We had to do that because we wouldn't be a tight live band if we didn't play a bunch of bad shows.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of being pickier with gigs, still performing.
What's your band called?
Minor League.
Minor League.
Yeah.
Nice. That baseball league.
That's right.
I like it. It's deep for you, man. It's deep.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of rock and roll, fun, like 90s influence.
I love 90s.
Rock music.
In my opinion, the best era. Some of the best music came out
for
in the
sure.
90s. Oh, man.
And I think that people are starting to appreciate it more. I think finally we're far enough away from the 90s that there's some nostalgia associated with it. So hopefully, it's going to come back around.
Well, I think kind of like 80s, a few years back, the 80s sound and vibe kind of just came to the forefront.
Everywhere.
And I'm starting to hear a lot more up-and-coming bands. Like, people are like, hey, like a club, check this band out, check this band out. And almost all of them have a tinge of the 90s to it. I'm like, it's coming back.
Finally.
This is awesome. But it's fresh, you know?
It is.
Rainbow Kitten Surprise?
Yes.
I love them.
Yeah.
But there's just this visceral 90s thing the guy's voice and the way they write, just like the darker tones.
Just like the song structures, to me, were engaging in the 90s.
Yeah.
And bands like that, just have great songs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's less about the production element and the effects and all that. It's just, these are great songs.
Yeah, and the emotion, like his voice, I don't know his name, but like Cocaine Jesus, when he's singing that, I'm like, oh, this tune, man.
Yep.
So, but that's cool, man. Spotify and all that.
Yeah,
because
so
I'll put it in the notes and everything. They can check it out. So.
Yeah, for sure. About to release a new track here in 5 days.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty like garage rock.
Hell yeah, dude.
I actually recorded it in this room, just one take.
Nice.
Which was so freeing for me.
Yeah.
And you got some of the room sound in it. It was just this old school, really high energy approach. I redid the vocals later on, but all the tracks were just one take. Let's get in a room, record this thing.
Killer, man.
Super fun.
That is 90s.
Yeah, definitely.
And I bet just the vibe of the room and the sound in here, I could see that being cool.
Yeah.
So 5 days from now, which by the time this airs, it'll be out in there anyway. So
October 15th, I think.
Yeah. That's when it's coming out?
Yeah.
Right on.
I believe that's the date.
Yeah, and I think this will probably go out in November, so it'll be fully out there for all you people to check it out.
Perfect.
So you get to perform doing Sofar. What do you love about the Sofar environments?
Ooh, lots of things. Actually, this past week I met with a bunch of city directors from all over the country. Okay. And just reinforced to me the core values of Sofar that are so appealing. The emphasis on the artists. Mm-hmm. Really, everything Sofar does is to promote the artists.
That's amazing.
The fact that they create a setting where people are really listening and where an artist can actually engage and tell the stories behind the songs. It's just such a rare format now.
Yeah.
So it's all about the artists. I think kind of the secretive element of it is what really made it take off, because that's such a millennial concept. It's a secret show. You don't know where it's going to be. It could be literally anywhere. We've had shows in parking garages, art galleries. We've had shows in here before. And then we've had shows at coffee shops.
Mm-hmm. I saw Siphon. I was just over there. I saw there was a Sofar show.
That's right.
That they had in the past events or something.
Yeah, so we did that, I guess, about a month ago. So yeah, it can be anywhere. It's just like this grab bag of any type of artist. We got hip hop, spoken word, jazz, classical, rock. Could literally be anything.
And I noticed, I was talking to, I haven't seen it yet, but the Kansas City so far, they incorporated some comedians into one of their events,
some of the cities
which
are
I
doing
thought was
that.
pretty cool. I'm like, dude, I need to check this out.
I know.
Where they had like the host of the night was an actual comedian from the community. And so he got like, they just let him know up front, hey, this is going to be a little different, but he's going to have like a few minutes here, a few minutes there in between artists. And they said it went really well.
That's a great idea.
It's a cool thing.
Noted.
So. Well, and that's what you had said something about that before of like crafting stuff. We were talking about like Joe Rogan earlier, just the comedians and the way that they have to just keep going out there and crafting their shows. And but for listeners, sorry, I almost got off on a tangent about comedians because I get really excited. For listeners though, if you're wanting to go to a Sofar show, what does that look like then? So the secretive nature, just in case they don't know what it is, can you break down what it looks like to actually attend a Sofar show?
Yeah, so you go to the website, sofarsounds.com, and then / whatever city you want to go to. And one of the cool things is it's in so many cities that if you're just traveling somewhere, more than likely the city you're in has a Sofar. Yeah. So you can kind of add that into your travel plans and see some local artists from that city. Go to the website, you look at all the dates that they have. They have an application process kind of for tickets. So it's just a random lottery. Sometimes you don't get in, sometimes you do. So you apply for the show you want, and then you get an email that says you've been accepted, claim your tickets, and then you get an email the day before the show that says address revealed, it's at this location. You don't know what the actual space is, you just know that you go to this address, and you just kind of, you're in for whatever. And then you don't actually know the artists until they start playing. Right. Like we don't announce the artists until we're at the show.
That's awesome.
So that's a cool thing because people, if you know who's playing, you kind of develop this idea of whether you're going to like it or not. But with Sofar, you just have to go in with an open mind, and you find that you like things that you might not have expected to.
I love it.
So it's a great format.
And like you said, the secret of nature when I tell other people about it. And it doesn't matter if they're like 16 or they're like 55. I've told people all different ages, backgrounds, and they're like, what's Sofar? And I'll explain to them like that same kind of process. And I'm like, you literally don't know what's happening. All you know is it's going to be good because you guys curate very, very well. Yeah. And they're always like, wow, that actually sounds pretty cool. Yeah. They get pumped for it.
It's really fun.
What would you say to an artist who's trying to like tour, doing that kind of stuff? What suggestions would you give to them as far as like getting involved with Sofar in different cities?
It's a good question. Like for me, like you submitted, and unfortunately the dates didn't work out, which is frustrating. But
I do love it. I'll let you talk about the process, but I love the website and how it approached it. But anyways, suggestions.
Well, so like one of the reasons we wanted to book you, and if you're back in town, we'd be happy to book you, is because you had good live content.
Okay.
So I could watch your videos. You've done a Sofar before. I can see how you interact with the crowd. I can see how you perform in front of people in a room acoustically. A lot of times we'll get submissions from people who just have recorded content, like a Spotify link. And that's like, they might sound very professional, but if I don't know how you're going to be in front of a crowd,
because you can sound good in a studio,
that like we can be pretty picky. Like if I don't know that you're going to deliver, probably not going to book you.
Nice. Okay.
And so kind of developing that content to be able to prove to somebody who's booking, this is what I'm going to do, and it's good, then I'm happy to book you.
Right on.
Like it's pretty easy to get involved if you have that content that's just like really obvious. You can deliver in this type of a format.
Nice. Now, and I think I know what your answer will be, but asking it, so they could just, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter the quality of it, of that live performance.
It honestly doesn't.
And I hear so many promoters tell me that. They're like, I just want to see what you do live. Like it literally could be someone's cell phone.
Like if you can even, if you're, like my first videos that I submitted to Sofar to be an artist were just a house concert that I put on. Yeah. And I just invited a bunch of friends over, did a show, got a video crew, got an audio crew to record some stuff. So it was professional looking and sounding, but I just put the whole thing together myself. Right. And I've used that video 100 times to book things. But honestly, if you just had a cell phone video, that's plenty. Like if I can see how you
right?
put together a show in your living room with your friends, interact with them, like you're comfortable in front of your friends too, so you should be able to like be engaging and fun.
Because if you can't there, you might not be quite ready for this show.
Maybe keep working on your stage
if you can't
presence.
Be lively for mom, maybe
exactly.
you need some more reps.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so it's not that difficult. You just have to kind of take some initiative and put some stuff together. Give somebody your cell phone while you're playing and just say press play, and then.
Well, and I ask that too because I do it as an artist. It's like we want the branding, and I think, in my opinion, you should always be working on branding and growing. I literally just created 3 new promo videos and changed even what I sent to you, but there's still live clips, mixed in. But I see too often artists get so hung up on like it's got to be perfect, but then what happens? They never play. You know, they're waiting for that.
And it takes years to get the content out.
Right.
It's just like the moment's already gone.
Yeah, a buddy of mine said, because I love Good to Great, I love like business books, Jim Collins, Good to Great, and I did a quote by it, and he said, yeah, but the problem is great is good, or good is the enemy of great. He said, but sometimes great is the enemy of done. And sometimes you just got to get it done and practice iterations. And so it's cool to hear. I love when promoters say that's like, no, literally, just get that. Give me something.
Yeah.
And if you're good, you're good. Or kind of like you said, the song, where like, if the song is good. I can't remember if we talked about that before the camera started rolling or not now. It's all kind of bleeding. But when we were talking about songs, it's like, if the song's good, it connects and it'll speak through all those things.
Right.
So, but I love the philosophical end of so much. I love what makes people tick. It's really cool to hear, like, even you're not cool that you got paralysis. What was the name of I forgot the name.
Guillain-Barre.
Guillain-Barre. Yeah. But it was cool to hear how that helped shape you and how, like, you pushed through that. So that's one reason I, like, kind of started this, like, figure out what's making people tick, what's making other artists, other business folks tick. And so for you, when you think about ultimately living a great life, what does that mean to you?
It's a big time question.
Right? It's like, let's get a cigar, maybe some whiskey.
How much time do we have here? So I think there are a few different elements to it. I think one is, man, if you can't be happy today, then no matter what happens later on, like whatever you think you need to have, whatever situation you think you need to be in, you're probably not going to be happy then either.
Yeah.
Like thinking about a lot of the things that people expect will make them happy, like travel, for example. Like my wife and I try to travel as much as we can. But I'm under no illusion that if we travel, I'm just going to be happy all the time. Like no matter where you go, you're still you. Like you still are
so true.
Frustrated at the same things. You're still like lacking sleep and get annoyed. You're still hungry. Like nothing. If you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy when you get whatever you think you need to be happy.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of been that's something I've found even in the last couple years with my music career, even because like there's this point that I would like to get to in my music career, but just kind of understanding I'm going to work just as hard as I ever have. Like I'm still going to make the songs as good as possible, make the recordings good, put on great shows, but also understanding I'm doing that because people need things to shoot for.
Right.
And I need that personally to stay productive. But if I get there, it's still me. Like I'm still the same person. And so I need to figure out how I can be happy and content with where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And I think the second aspect of it is you got to figure out a way to make what you're doing about contributing to other people.
Yeah.
So like for me with my teaching career, that was really obvious. It's like, yeah, this is really exhausting.
It's built in, right?
Right.
Like you can see the growth and ideally.
Sure. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, this is a really exhausting profession, but I can feel satisfied with what I'm doing because other people are living better lives because of it.
Yeah.
Or with Sofar, for me, the most rewarding thing is not even playing the shows. It's giving my friends and other great musicians in Houston opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah.
So kind of creating that community has been really cool. And like that's more rewarding to me than just like how many Instagram followers we have or like how successful we've been putting on all these shows and how fast we've grown. It's really giving these people opportunities to play in front of people because that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. My wife and I would talk about that concept a lot, where I often say something very similar. I'm sure I took it from some quote from somebody, but it's like, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
And like going back to your first piece that you're talking about, where it's like, I remember touring.
It's a hard lesson.
It is, and I still work on it because I'm like every day still kind of battling that, what I want versus where I'm at. And I remember being on tour one day and just like being frustrated about this or that. There's so many things that can go wrong, and family life and all these kind of things, money. And I was like, well, what do you want? Kind of asking myself that. And then seeing like literally I already kind of have the things. I have a great wife. I have these kids that I love, and I have, the career's not where I wanted it, but I'm still touring. I'm still getting to do music. So it was like making me reevaluate, like you're literally mad about things, but you have the things in front of you. You're just not enjoying it now. And that, what you were talking about, where it's like, if you finally get to whatever that echelon you thought you wanted, are you just bitter and angry, and did you lose everything along the way?
Yeah.
Those kind of concepts.
For sure.
So I love that you bring that up.
Like you can misconstrue that to like you shouldn't pursue your dreams,
right?
And that's like not at all.
That's different
because
I
like
didn't think
I'm
you
trying
were
to do
that
every day, and like I've got a bunch of goals that I'm working towards. Part of it is just if you have something, if you're good at something, it's just irresponsible to not try to do it as well as you can possibly do it.
Right.
Like I feel like, I mean, if you have a talent, you got to pursue it. You have to try to do the most with it.
Yeah.
Just understanding that you got to be happy with yourself.
So is it for you, would you say it's more like learning to enjoy the process of the thing as opposed to the outcome?
Yeah, I think, because the outcome is rarely as good as you want it to be. So yeah, just enjoying the process and just the value of working hard for something. Yeah. Just, I think, generally makes you a better person. So even if you don't, like we were talking about running earlier. Yeah. Even if I don't qualify for the Boston Marathon, just the process of trying to get there and working hard and being committed to something just makes me a better person.
Yeah. Gives you the discipline, the focus, and probably the endorphins that you need to,
good point.
to keep going.
For sure.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Well, and so this other thing of finding, I'm trying to think exactly how you said it, but the idea of providing for others, like doing something that will impact other people. Is there a specific moment in the Sofar world that sticks out to you where you were like, man, I feel really good. I feel good that I saw this thing happen? Yeah.
I was just thinking about this the other day. It's fresh on my mind. The most gratifying experiences I've had with Sofar are sending Houston artists who I know and think are amazing to other cities, and the other cities are like, this dude is amazing. Like, to me, that's when I'm like, okay, we're getting it right here. Like, awesome. That to me is extremely rewarding. Celebrating the people who I think are great and then giving them other opportunities, and they just kill it and makes them look good, and it makes me really happy.
I love it, man. I might have to just, even this clip, I might have to just cut it and put it out there on its own as well. Yeah. And because a lot of younger artists, I get the opportunity to talk to younger artists trying to like do things, and it's almost like they think promoters are, I don't know exactly what you would call yourself. I think of it as like
a promoter.
Sort of promoter, but like someone in your position, like the person who's saying, yes, you can play or you can't play. It's almost like me against them, where, and I had that same mentality. The more people I got to know, where I was like, that's almost everyone. I've met a few where it's just, at the end of the day, it's just money and they don't care at all. But on a whole, hearing these kind of stories where I think younger artists need to hear that. It's like, no, they really want the best.
Yeah.
So
I
just be patient and keep working, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So the idea of creating great things, I think we've hit on that, you know, meandered in and out of it. But if you had to boil it down, what does it look like to create great things to you?
I think, so for me, it would be like when I'm creating great things, that can mean creating great results for things that I'm going after. As a songwriter, creating a song that I wouldn't change a single thing about. And so I think in a way it is, you kind of have to be a little bit of a perfectionist, in that you have to take pride in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like what you are creating, if you're writing songs, if you're running a business, if you're an athlete, whatever it is, your end product is a representation of you.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like a very competitive person, and I want my end result to represent me in a good way.
Yeah.
And so anytime I do anything, I feel like almost sometimes to a fault, like it's gotta be great.
Yeah. So for you, is it at the end of the day, you want to be proud of it?
Yeah,
more so than how other people perceive it?
Yeah, so for me, a huge motivation is I want to be proud of what I've done.
Yeah.
Even if, I mean, we were talking about it with songs. Even if nobody hears this song, which is probably more than half of the songs I'm going to write, to me, like, I want to know that I wrote the greatest song I could have written.
Right.
And I think that mentality filters into a lot of different things. And that's something I tried to teach my students whenever I was teaching. Like, man, even if nobody knows about this, just knowing that you did your best is such a gratifying feeling.
Yeah.
And if you can make that a habit, then whatever you do, you're gonna be successful.
It's gonna grow.
Yeah,
even if it's painful step by painful step.
Right.
No, I feel you.
Yeah, if you just really care about the detail and the quality of what you're doing,
Yeah.
then it's gonna, like, you'll be okay.
That's awesome.
So,
any advice you would give, any other advice you would give, like younger artists or newer artists, I should say, who are trying to get out there? I feel like you've already given a wealth of knowledge, but anything specific that you feel like we haven't touched on?
I would say, I think you have to identify what your ultimate motivation is with arts. Is it, I mean, for some people, and I don't think this is wrong at all. For some people, it's about building a career. Like, this is the career that they want, and they are going to do the things that they need to do to make it a career. And I think that's totally fine. Yeah. I think sometimes people get mad at those, like, oh, you're selling out, or no, I'm trying to make a career out of doing something I love. And I think that's totally fine. So you got to figure out, do you want it to be a career, or do you want it to be like your true self, expressing yourself in the most authentic way? Yeah. Sometimes both of them come together, and it's a perfect situation. Sometimes you do have to decide, like, am I okay with having a really small following, kind of struggling away for a long time, but knowing that I've been completely honest with the way that I wanted to express myself? Right. Or am I somebody who's like, a producer tells me I need to do this, and it's going to sell more records, and I do it.
Like, throw some strings on it. Like, let's do it. All right.
That's totally fine.
Right.
Like, you just have to know which is your motivation, because if you're kind of stuck in between the two and you don't 100% commit to one of those things, then you're like, you're not completely satisfied maybe with what you're doing, but you're also not maybe making it like as a career the way you want to. So you have to figure out what your ultimate motivation is.
I love it.
And then you just make decisions, and if people hate you for it, like,
at least you
made,
feel good.
Yeah, you made the decision and you stuck with it.
I love it.
So
yeah, that's the why behind what you do. And I feel like I see that. I've even seen that even in myself, and trying to like do this whole music career thing where it's like you ultimately just get frustrated when it's this or that. You're like, yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, and there's no guarantees, obviously. Like,
right.
If I put strings on my new track, it's not like I'm going to be moving to LA.
Right. Well, there was one day I read it was an article where they tracked a Rihanna song so they do their songwriter like retreats, their camp retreats. It's like 2 weeks where they get the top writers in like the world, and they pay them all just crazy money, send them out for 2 weeks in like, a cabin, and they write all these songs with her. Yeah. And then one of those songs gets chosen out of all those songs. And then they dump all this production, all the things, and I love pop music. So it was like really fascinating to me to hear it. And then they finally get it out there, ton of money behind promotion. Like, I think when it's all said and done for that one song is like $2 million, which from what I understand isn't even that much money for what they've done in the past. Yeah. Didn't even chart. I can't remember what song it was. Didn't even chart. And I was like, well, Jesus, man.
That's amazing.
I called my
What am I
producer
doing
one
here?
day and I was like, dude, am I just crazy? Like, I think I'm just crazy for doing this. And I was kind of hoping to be like, no, you're good. He goes, dude, yeah, we're all crazy. This is an absurd job. You want to play music and have people show up and like it.
Yep.
Like, that's absurd. Of course you're crazy, but would you do anything else?
Right.
And it's like,
And that's also the key. You've got to know that this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
For sure. Like if you're going to really commit to it, this has to be. You can't just halfway get into music and expect the results that you want out of it. It's like it's got to be deep inside of you. You got to be committed to it.
Absolutely. And that's I toured with a bass player where he was in acting. So music was his plan B. Which he loved joking about. He's like, music was my plan B. Is that insane or what? And but he said he had a drama teacher that the first day of class when he started studying was like, if you can see yourself doing anything else, go do that. Because or else you're not going to survive the arts world.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. What do you think of that?
I think that's advice that more teachers need to give, honestly. Yeah. And I think that if you can see yourself doing something else, but you don't do something else and you stick with it, but sort of half-heartedly, you're going to miss the opportunities to maybe be successful in a different way.
Right.
So you got to be in 100% for sure.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for making the time.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. And just thank you for what you're doing for artists. It's cool to hear like you talking about sending someone to yet another city. And I've had so far people do that for me, from my own city. And it's just huge. That kind of stuff is huge for us. And it means a ton. The fact that an artist can go to a city they've never been to, like get ready to go to Portland, never been there, but I now have the opportunity to play for other people. And so thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you for what you're doing. I know it's a shit ton of work behind the scenes that maybe not every artist sees, but yeah. So I appreciate it. And thanks for making the time for this.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Awesome, man.
Best of luck in your tour.
Thank you, man. Awesome. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was very cool. Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.